Alrighty. How are you guys? Thanks for joining us. How's your Sunday? Happy Easter.
Great.
I really appreciate
Hello.
you guys coming on a holiday. I know we all have, families and things to do.
Mhm.
So I really appreciate you guys coming on to chat with me.
No
Um,
worries.
how was your Sunday? What do you guys do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I just
You
kind of
relax?
out. Yeah.
Yeah. I was telling Mike earlier that we actually had a celebration for my sister because her birthday is April 27th.
Oh
So it's
wow.
been a while since we've had like all of us together, you know? So we had like dinner and we were playing these games.
So it's been a while
Um,
since we've had like
all of us together, you know?
so we had like dinner and we were playing these games. It's been a while since we've had like all of us
Is it
together.
me?
No, I think it's his. Mike, you have to close your Facebook.
Okay. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah. So it's already
Sorry.
shared
I
on
was
your
trying
page.
to
You
do
don't
the
have to
live
keep Facebook.
thing.
Okay. You can share it on
Okay.
yeah. So if you go on my page, you can share it from there. Like just share the post and it'll go on your page.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's
I
cool.
disrupted your.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah,
Awesome.
so it's been a while since we had our families together. So it was fun. We got to play some games and stuff.
Yeah.
You guys see the can you guys see the chat now that we're live on the side?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So hi Kim, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
How do we get on live again for Facebook? I've never done
So you don't have to go live. So go on my page, on my Facebook page,
Okay.
and then this stream will be broadcasted live there, and then you could just share it, and
Oh,
it'll
yeah.
be posted on your page.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. There we
And
go.
right now we're live
Awesome.
on LinkedIn.
See.
On
Mm-hmm. Great.
So
And
we're
I'm glad you're
simultaneously
so
live.
forgiving because the last couple of so I've been like totally messing up like these different, shows I've been on recently because of like this whole like trying to coordinate the live and my Facebook page because my narcissistic tendencies like I want people to see it, so I don't mean to bust on this. So this is like the third show like and I've been like canceled by a whole bunch of people because so I'm glad.
Listen,
you're cool.
this is a learning curve for all of us. I consider myself an idiot savant when it comes to technology. So the fact that this is working, it's great. You guys are here, we're talking, people are seeing, like people are joining us, like I tell you, and it's really
Awesome.
relaxed. It's a Sunday night talk, just kind of, like getting to know each other and just, having a platform for other people
Like
to
the Madonna
see our
song. Get into the groove.
Which one? Which one?
Get
which one?
into the groove. Boy,
Oh God, it's good. Is this poetry night or like karaoke night? What is it gonna
I
be?
prefer causing a commotion personally. So
There you go. See, that's what I was talking about. But yeah. So for everyone that's tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. Your friend saying, "Oh, geez," she's like, "No, don't sing it." This is Kim and my Kim and my friend Stacey. I met Stacey through what was it when we did the first workshop? Was it the playwright workshop or the poetry one?
I think it was the playwright.
The playwright, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was hallucinating that one time, and they were like, "You should try this playwright." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Because I just started writing, so let me just throw myself into this. But it was such a cool experience.
Yeah.
And then Mike, we just met recently through Facebook, through mutual friends, and
Same here.
whole vet.
oh yeah, I thought you
Yeah.
guys knew each other. So because I was like, oh, they'll be perfect.
I mean, yes, we do, but we met through mutual friends.
Oh, okay.
And Stacey's like hustling information about monastic life and stuff like that. So because I was a monk, I'm kidding. She's not, but like, yeah, like we've been talking a lot about like monastic life and different things like that, because she's working on different projects, you know.
That's pretty
So
cool.
it's like really cool, like that we all like exchange information as veterans, right? That we have that veteran link, and that we can, you know, like pass on different things that we have, right? Whereas like sometimes like in the civilian community, it becomes difficult. I know in the vet community, you've got haters and all that try to do the same thing, but still, I think it's still easier in the vet community to kind of, you know, share things.
I think that's true. I think that is true, because, you know, we have places where we congregate, you know, and we're always like looking for that battle buddy. So
Yeah, last Sunday, when I was talking to Craig, you know, you know Craig. Yeah. So we're talking, and he's like, I call this the veteran underground. Like when we all get together and kind of hang out. I was like, I'm stealing that line. I love it.
I like that a lot.
Yep. So Craig, if you're watching, shout out. But so let's get into the meats and potatoes of this. You guys can introduce yourselves, because I don't want to mess up any accolades or anything that you've done. So Mike, you're gonna have to be a gentleman and let her go first.
What?
Yeah. So please tell us, Stacey, you know, your service, anything you wanted to know, like your background, how'd you decide to join the military, and you know, all that good stuff.
So I'm Stacey. I was an Army medic from 1998 to 2003. What made me join the Army? Well, I was 86 pounds soaking wet. I was shy and an only child, and I had a lot to prove. Also, a substitute teacher basically laughed at me. Well, she didn't laugh. She said, you know, you're so pretty. Why don't you be a model? You're so thin and pretty. You should be a model. And I was like, there's more to me. So I went and signed up for the Army. Marines, you know what's funny? The Marines were my first choice. So.
Oh yeah? What happened?
It was right before you guys redid your ad campaign. So.
Oh, we lost you on that one.
Yeah, I was you know what? I was actually had hunted down the recruiter. I was talking to him and everything, and I just happened to glance over to your brochures, your all black brochures that no matter what it said, every time you opened it, it said the few, the proud Marines, and that was it. I was kind of like, so you want to be a nurse? The few, the proud Marines. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go across the hallway. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah. And you know what's, I mean, it's the messed up part about it that we don't have medical MOSs in the Marine Corps.
No, you, it would have had to been like a little bit more like towards the Navy side of it. So,
yeah. So she's like, I'm out. Deuces.
Yeah. I was like, y'all are,
yeah. She's like,
something right.
You know, I can't even argue with that. Something's definitely not right. Most of us are like really a little touched.
And the funny thing is, I was going to sign up for the reserves, and on my way to the station to swear in, I'm talking to my recruiter, and he's like, well, why are you doing the Army Reserves? And I said, well, I want to go to college. And he said, you can do that, like, you know, while you're, you know, inactive. And I said, really? And so when I came back home, my mom was like, yay, 2 years. And I said, yay, 4 years. She was like, what are you talking about? And I said, I signed up active. So I had left there, supposed to be just signed up for the reserve. I came back active.
Oh my gosh.
She was like, I know I should have let you go alone.
How old were you when you signed up?
18. Okay. And I actually planned it so that I left for basic training 2 years. I'm not saying 2 months after graduating high school. So I left that July.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your time in?
You know, I want to say in generally, yes. I I think that I was so shy and so reserved, or just scared to be myself, that I don't think half the things I do now, especially art, and actually putting it out there, I don't think I would have done that without kind of the confidence that, you know, being in the Army actually did. On the other hand, I think I made a lot of sacrifices, and you know, and a lot of sacrifices that I'm dealing with today. So
What was your biggest culture shock, do you think? You know?
you know what? I don't know. I think the one thing that helped me was that I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like I was big into movies, and you know, and I'm a geek, and I'm an 80s, basically an 80s kid and stuff. So I had basically went into basic training already thinking, okay, they're supposed to yell at you and make your life crap. So I was already kind of like, okay, this is, no matter what they say, I kind of already know this is what you're supposed to do. Right. So when I was meeting new people and getting, you know, like, you know, doctrine, which is kind of what you're doing, I was very flexible and I flowed with it. So I think the biggest culture shock really was what it opened me up to positively. It was the first time I'd ever left the country when I went to Korea. It was actually the first time I'd ever been on a plane, was the basic training. I went to Korea, and that gave me the travel bug. And so like made it very, very, very easy. Much easier for me to just go, you know. And I've lived in Ohio. I don't count that really, but I've lived in Ohio and California. I'm in New York right now, and probably later, like probably in a year or so, I'm planning, that's the goal, it can change, but I'm planning to move back to California and live in the LA area. So there's just, I think the culture shock really was realizing that there was things I could do, and even if I didn't believe it, and even if I was scared out of my mind, you know, I just kind of just use that fear and that nervousness to just go forward.
Yeah, I think it opens up your perspective a lot of times, especially for people that are born in here. Like for us, for example, I migrated from Peru when I was 12. Yeah. So I think I already kind of had that cultural shock, if you want to call it. But I think for people that grow up here, they've never been somewhere, like the military is it's not so much of a rude awakening, but it's a very deep awakening, you know. Yeah. And then because you get introduced to different people of walks of life that you never would have, you know, met before. And I think
it does train you in a way to kind of, well, at least for me, I'm going to just speak for myself, but you know, meeting all these people and meeting just different people, I just kind of fell in love with. So going to different duty stations, and you know, who was going to be like in my platoon and my squad, and then even when I was at the Army, you know, it was like, you know, okay, I'm in a new work environment. Who am I going to meet, and how is this going to go, and what am I going to learn, and things like that. So I think it can open you up to being more open to other people and to other things, and to be willing to try it, you know,
by choice or by order, either or.
Right, exactly. Or make the best out of something. You know?
You're gonna like it, and you will be friends with them.
Yeah.
Right. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about you, your background. When did you join? I know you're like multi-service. Of course,
yeah. Well, you're just basically saying I'm an old person, you know.
I didn't say that. Listen, you're projecting. You're projecting my words.
I got my 70s Quicksilver jacket that, you know, still fits me, you know, or I should say 80s, you know.
Okay,
I got this. Okay, young man. From Hot Topic. I still dress like I'm a goth girl, a 15-year-old goth girl. I mean, this is what I am.
That's right. That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
What else? That's
exactly. So, so my family experienced war. Every member of my family, including my mom, So it's really interesting that like the veteran, the military, and the civilian are three very strong aspects of my life, because even my stepmom, she died of Agent Orange because of the heavy combat that she experienced in the Vietnam War. And my family had to journey through that. My mom died young of cancer, not because of the war, but it's interesting that, the Marines and the 82nd Airborne invaded the Dominican Republic in 1965. And so they occupied the Dominican Republic for a whole year. And my mom like experienced that. And it's interesting, when she died in 1990, towards the end of her death, she was, on morphine drip and stuff like that. And she was reflecting. She never shared that war experience. And she was like unconsciously sharing her war experience, as far as like the strafe bombing, the jet bombings along the Malecon, or like by the ocean, and like going underneath the bed and stuff. So she'd share that. And so, so I had that perspective. My sister was military. She was in Afghanistan. She went through her readjustment, very different. So what's interesting is we all have our own readjustment. She's a mom of 3 kids and came back and just got married and all that, and had to deal with all that. I had to deal with being a new father after I got back, which I wasn't ready for. My father experienced war as a civilian in the Korean War. I'm doing a lot of research on the Korean War, because I think a lot of myths are there, as far as like, we saved Korea, the United States saved Korea, and really, I mean, out of all the modern wars, more civilians died in that war than any war in the modern age. For those 3 years, it was like something like 3 million civilians died, in that war. And Americans just don't know about that. And my father lived that as a civilian, but then as a soldier, because he was at that age. So this type of experience really kind of made it really natural for my sister and I to be in the military. So I first signed up for an active duty contract in 1986 for the Army. And then at that time, there was a military college, because I was abandoned by my family, to be quite honest, because my mom had cancer. We were poor, and my mom had to be hospitalized. So as you know, a lot of folks that go into the military, whatever, they have broken lives. Many people rebuild their lives in the military. Some people don't, whatever. But, for me, my way out was the military. So even though I signed up for the active duty contract, I was basically brought into a place called Norwich Military College, Norwich University Military College of Vermont. So there's a VMI. Norwich is the first military college, senior military college, and then VMI, and then the Citadel, and Texas A&M, North Georgia College, VPI. These are like the military colleges. So I was, I guess, because of my academics and other things, I ended up there. And I joined the National Guard, and I was an MP with the National Guard. And then I'm going to make this really quick. Bottom line is, I was tired of, like that whole scene. And I just, I found out about the Marines having, they may not have had military MARSOC back then, but they had military, they had special operations capable units. So they had, they still have them. They still have Force Recon. They had Anglico, and I chose to go Anglico, and then so I joined the reserves because people were telling me that they had a higher completion rate in recon force. The reserve recon, Force Recon, Anglico people did better. And just because you didn't have like all this duty, to be on when you're on active duty, you could just focus on training to pass selection and get through, your pipeline. So I was Anglico, and I went through jump school and did all the training, and that was great. And I got injured, and I ended up basically my unit was telling me, just get a commission, get your commission, go back to military college. So after like a year of being with Anglico, I ended up going back to military college, and I graduated. I got a commission. I was commissioned. I was a Coast Guard officer during the war on drugs. That was interesting. I was down in Florida. I learned a lot, but it was there that I also understood, like, being like one of like the first junior officers, like in the Coast Guard Generation X multicultural junior officers, that I understood the role of race in the military. It just really, brought that up. And whatever, there were good times and bad times. I successfully won a whistleblower, which is very difficult to do in the military. And then I just, had an honorable discharge. I ended up at Yale. I wanted to be a monk because of my military background. So I was a monk for a number of years, like 10 years. And then after 9/11, I basically decided to rejoin the military. And I went in with the Army. I did tactical civil affairs with the 3rd Infantry Division and the 101st Airborne in Iraq. And then, I did my time, and then returned. Luckily, in civilian life, I was able to reintegrate with the VA in a hybrid position. And since I had clinical skills in the past as a monk, I was able to be equivalent to a major a captain. And then I eventually retired, working with DOD, as a VA person and director in combat trauma. So I have like 20,000 to 30,000 combat trauma hours working with veterans from all different wars, as well as situations, including military sexual trauma. And it's just been a very interesting life. And so that's where I'm at now. I'm doing research right now at Columbia University, focusing a lot on war culture and veteran culture, because I think a lot of people know about military culture from movies like Rambo and all this kind of stuff, and the Big Red One and all that, but they don't know much about readjustment culture. And so that's a lot of like my research.
See, this is why I let you people introduce yourselves, because I would admit something and then they'd be like, hey, you forgot about this. I'm like, listen, don't kill me. All right. But
just quickly to piggyback on Mike, it took me a few years to kind of figure out where I was going. I am a writer. I do photography, and I write stories, and I write plays, and I'm actually trying to put together a play that actually skewers Hollywood stories of military and veterans. So, and it's a parody, and I actually want everybody that's involved, including the actors, to be veterans. So that is that creative project. But also I have entered the world of peer specialist. So it's basically where people who have actually lived experience with substance use and or mental health challenges are able to kind of mentor those who are just starting their recovery progress. I'm hoping to work at some point with veterans, because the VA actually does have peer specialist there. And I'm also trying to create a peer specialist program to put it together for veterans who want to enter the entertainment industry, because, as a veteran and you're getting these roles to audition for. You know, it could bring up a lot of bad stuff. If you're just getting to a point now where you're like, you feel like you're steady to try to even get into the entertainment, you know, you probably want somebody who's been there, done that in some way, shape, or form, and kind of be like, just listen to whatever, you know, and if they have any resources to kind of pass them on to that. So
That's cool. When do you have like a dream where you would want this play to premiere? Or
I was trying, because I'm so bad at procrastination. So, and also letting my anxiety get in the way about, you know, so I will defeat I will talk, I will fight against writing, even though I really want to. So I had wanted to actually try to do go for the Hollywood Fringe, this Hollywood Fringe, but I was like, you know what? I just don't have the time to really try to get that together and, you know, write something. I could write it, you know, but I'm working on the script, and I'm also, you know, like there's other stuff and factors, you know. So I said that will just have to wait, and probably wait until maybe I'm actually in California, you know. But I am researching now for the veteran. I've gotten, it sounds like people think it's a cool idea, especially in veteran entertainment circles. So, you know, go with that.
well, yeah, I mean, when we did the playwright workshop, you know, like I said, I was like this newbie that just got thrown into this, and you know, it's the middle of the pandemic. I'm like, sure, I have free time. I kind of like,
Yeah.
let's try this, right? But it was so I can't even explain the feeling of having trained actors like embody the words that I put down. I was like, it's like, yeah, it was mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I can totally see how that would be. And if you have veterans to embody these words, I think
Yeah.
it adds a layer of, like, you know,
And also their input,
yeah.
you know. So, you know, that's the two goals right now. The two like kind of creative goals. So.
That, you know, I love that. I think for most of us veterans, we're very like goal oriented, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, it's like I think well, I'm speaking for myself because I relate totally with what you said about the anxiety, and like I have so many balls up in the air,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll I'll check out on my own too, and then like, you know you're supposed to be doing this, right? In the back of my mind, like, you should be writing this, but no, I'm just sitting there like,
But
you know, reading a
like
book.
I think, yeah, like I think what you both said, like, you know, it inspires me to share a little bit, like from a professor who's like dear in my heart, who writes a lot about like the artistic process and like theory, as well as like how to practice art. But his whole thing is like unlearning. Like John Baldacchino, he's at University of Wisconsin in Madison, but he's basically saying that, you know, and I've never heard this like from a lot of these like art theorists, but he's basically saying, and I think this is very appropriate for veterans, as far as like, you know, this artistic process is an exit, it's an escape, you know, it's a legitimate escape, it's a dissociation that doesn't have to be pathologized. Like how, like when we go to whatever clinics or whatever, our priests or pastors, you know, and they're
Yes.
like, oh, you don't seem to be like in touch or whatever, you seem to be checked out. Mike Kim's in his bunker for 364 days, and then, you know, he comes out for the free buffet, you know, for Thanksgiving, you know, and you know, it's like, all right, but that's part of my creative process, you know. Now, yeah, you know, I'm accountable, like, you know, John, you know, talks a lot about like the exit of the artist. It doesn't mean that you're diminishing your responsibility, but that you're actually being in touch with it, and you're finding your artistic value, your symbolic meanings in that.
You know, it's I'll be a little bit vulnerable with you guys about this, but like it's like the flip side to this, right? Because I've experienced that with sculpting and painting, right? That it's that escape for me. It like art for me is my filter to process life and make sense of it all, right? Especially because I am very emotionally driven. Like I feel a lot of emotion, so I have to make sense of it somehow. So I put it down on a piece of paper, like on painting or sculpture, right? But then the flip side of this is that because I want to serve our sisters and our brothers, is that I started Claymore Vets, right? Because I want them to experience this. I want them to have this platform, right? So I got so driven and so focused on that I needed to create the space for them, and I need, you know what I mean? I totally forget to create space for me to just check out and draw and paint when I know that is my oxygen mask. Like that is the one thing that keeps me stabilized, right? But then so when you said that, it just kind of brought me back to like, yeah, I get it. It's my oxygen mask, but in the same time, because I'm trying to help other people, I forget about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like when I was at Norwich Military College, like there were these two like hippy dippy creative writing professors, in this military environment, Gina Logan and Pat DeRubo, and they really had like I think the perfect approach towards addressing military personnel in this rigid environment to unlock the imagination as far as what Maxine Green talks about in regards to the self and the imaginative creative being. And it was just like really helping people like really be in touch with who they with their humanity, right? So I think a lot of these books, like I was like, I'll be honest, I was pissed off when a lot of these books, I don't know if you remember, and then I'm going to shut up, but a lot of these books were like published, like a couple years ago, glorifying kind of like indirectly or directly glorifying the wars like in Iraq and Afghanistan, like redeployments. And I have nothing against Phil Clay. Like he won Book of the Year award. God bless him. People should read him, but people should also read other stuff, right? People should read other stuff. And I'm just saying that those works didn't really touch me because they didn't bring me to my humanity in regards to my military service, and I feel as though a lot of the art, and unlike when I look at your art, when I've spoken to you, Stacey, about your projects, I'm teased into my humanity. And I'm not saying that's the right thing. I'm just saying that's how I'm finding safety in looking at this stuff. In other words, it's not like what Napoleon said to kind of like, always shoot, always look, always hear, and always forget. And then like some vet from our like generation wrote a book, Fire and Forget. It's not about that. We need to get in touch with our humanity, and I appreciate your works.
And just quickly to further that idea, I think, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to, and then I'm going to, in the progress of writing a play about how Hollywood depicts, veterans and their stories and being seen through the lens of actual veterans, and it's a parody, but it's really skewering the idea that even with all our traumas and all of our scars, inward, outward, backwards, forwards, what have you, that because of that, we're not allowed to have joy. We're not allowed to laugh and to love and to, make stupid, dorky comments and do dorky things and actually embrace life. It has to be that we're, about to self-destruct in any given second, or we are self-destructing, or we have self-destructed and we're looking for redemption, or we're so okay that we actually go the other way where we're just so militaristic that, even on our days off and everything, it isn't, Stacey Bell, or it's not, Mike, or it's not Maria. It's specialist, it's specialist Bell. It's this and this, it's that and that, because like the military says, you're always a soldier, but there's a human that makes that soldier. So,
I've grappled with this thought that I had a while ago after an article I read, and it said that most of us military people, like, we're passive aggressive, suicidal, right? Because we're okay with giving our lives, right? We've literally signed on the dotted line and just made out like, okay, whatever the price may be, right?
right.
And so, in order to get us to that position, to that mentality, to being okay with giving up our lives, they totally disconnect our cables, our emotional cables, right?
Yeah.
There's no more, there's no more humanity to us, because it makes us weak in their eyes, right?
Right.
We're not mission ready when we're emotionally attached to the people that we love and to the things that make us human, right? And then the tragic part of this is that they do such a good job making us into these machines, these war destruction machines, that when we come back and our backpacks are off, there's no retraining you back to being a human. There's no retraining you back to feeling comfortable in your feelings, in loving, and being openly, like, connected to your family.
And you're getting it from both ends. You have society that now sees you either as you're either patriotic, or you're that weak soldier that has to question everything now because you've got problems, and you're making us look bad,
right?
So as I said, it's like we're not allowed to laugh.
Or even to go deeper, right? Like my advisor, who does a lot of work in, one of my advisors, her name is Yolanda Seeley Ruiz. She's out of Colombia, and she's a beautiful sister who just, like, she helps a lot of people, like, understand, like, what they bring into organizations and classrooms as far as, like, their own issues. And she calls it an archaeology of the self. And I just think the military doesn't provide that type of, domain for us to kind of, like, go in, so that we can continue that process after we get out, and we're just, like, thrown out, and that's it. There is no archaeology of the self.
And I was gonna ask you about this, Mike, because I think it leads into what your research is about, right? Because then we have the big picture of the veteran community, but a lot of times we have, like, the chosen speakers for our community, and they paint a very bland picture.
Yes.
And we're made up of so many different backgrounds and cultures, and and I think what your research is that, like, there's immigrants, there's, people of all different backgrounds.
And your work, that's why I love your work, and that's why I love, like, your art. And I was telling John this, that she's just not like a vet, she's hardcore Marine, but she's a mother. She's also a veteran advocate, formally, recognized by the state. And she's, this tremendous sculptor that is recognized, not just with military people at an American Legion Hall, like, she's recognized outside of that. So, and I could say that about Stacey as well. She's doing stuff that's not just, like, in, like, this small pocket of, veteran reality. And so, it's so important for us to be outside of the tropes, be outside of the myths that I call them the priestly caste of, the veterati, the society, the veterati, and they show up at all the conferences with their nice suits, and I'm not hating or anything. I'm being objective, because it's like, brother, sister, what are you doing to help another vet? Like, when I felt connected to you all, I always felt like I could contact you, or you could contact me if you want something and I got it, you know, have it, you know, if it's going to help you with your readjustment or whatever, have it. But these people that you made me kind of think about my contempt and some of my issues, which, you know, I also have to recognize, you know, that they're going through their readjustment, and maybe they've created those walls and barriers. You know, you smile because I smile too regarding that, because we felt that sting.
Right.
But you know.
Yeah, and I think once you cross that bridge, right? Because when you're in it, you don't realize that you're putting up a wall or you're being reactive, right?
No, because everyone is.
Exactly. But once you're on the other side, you start being able to pick up little clues, because then it's a reflected behavior. They're like, oh, I know what you're doing because I did that. Okay, I'll give you your space. I know what's happening, you know? So then you don't project it onto yourself anymore. Because I think when you're in that wounded, like when you're in that active moment of navigating the world from an open wound, you're very reactive, right? But when you've already come to the other side, when it still hurts, it still stings, you know, somebody smacks you on the wound, you were like, damn, that hurt. But you remember that you're on the other side and you're like, okay, I know you're being reactive. And there's such a liberating feeling to realize that, like, to really understand, like, it's not personal. I'm not taking it personal. I know that you're not doing it to me. You're doing it because that's where you are on your journey at that moment, you know? And I see it, and I see your struggle, and I see you're there. I'm here if you need me. You can talk to me. But it's it's like one of those moments where, like, you look at somebody else in the mirror and they're like a reflection of you, but you recognize yourself, right? Yeah. And then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know? You guys you like got quiet, like talking.
No, because it's deep, you know, and that's why I created a play called The Other Veteran, and it's much like what Stacey was talking about, and it was selected and performed at Snug Harbor in Staten Island with you know, good guide and influencers. Beth Gorey, she's out there. She's artistic type out there, and we just set that up, and it kind of brought that rawness, because I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm you know, mixed with all these different races, but I'm making a preferential option, like the Peruvian priest, you know, who was a Dominican friar like me, Gustavo Gutierrez, who basically said, you know, I'm making a preferential option for the poor. And I believe that veterans in our society, we're either economically poor, socially marginalized, or spiritually marginalized. Mm-hmm. And we are one of the poor in this society. And my preferential option has been, even though, like I said, I come from a lot of different backgrounds, the Asian American, not crusade, but just kind of like, you know, that type of advocacy, because a lot of Asian Americans are just like marginalized because we're like invisible. And so that's my thing. But there's many other communities. I mean, African American vets, Latino vets are just getting like recognized, and it's not even a full recognition. You know, veterans from LGBT community, you know, same thing with female vets, you know, things like that. I mean, one great thing about my friend, and you guys probably know him, Rudy Reyes, who's like, you know, he is that Top Gun type of dude, you know, who's like seen in the veteran. He's like, out of our generation, like the main mass culture veteran, but he's always talking about female vets and the struggles that they go through. Even though he's like a top Marine sniper recon, he's always talking about, you know, his broken home, you know, from a Mexican American family, you know, like he's talking about these real things. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, that you both have been saying, the real things within veteran life.
You know, I think that's a good leadway to kind of share your actual works, the movie talking about the works. So I think that's a perfect, you know, a moment for you to share with what was it called? The Other Vet, I think you said. What was the name of your poem, Mike? Was it The
Well,
Other Vet?
the other vet was a play, and maybe in the future we can show part of it, in another
Okay.
viewing. But I've got two poems, and one is in Mary Jane Nealon's future book. She does a lot with veterans and with homeless. She writes books. She does poetry as well, and she's just incredible. She's just incredible. But the poem from that I think is going to be in her book is 22 vets in COVID. Home became nothing as being was viewed and passed like a Pokemon card. The Badlands did not kill you, Marine. The Rona came with no bunker, and you were not gonna POW. And that is the structure of that poem is from the Korean style of poetry called Sijo, and it's like 3 lines, and it's focused a lot on. And I think poetry, you hear a lot of poetry that goes out there that's just, the war went like this, shit went down like that, I did this, I did that, he did this, he did that, but you never hear about vulnerabilities. And Korean poetry is very different than like Japanese haiku poetry. Like those 3 lines, the last 3 lines has to have some type of moral message or moral teaching to it. So that's why I found it conducive to the war. There's Mary Jane Nealon. She's awesome, but that like for me is like important that we cannot forget our moral and spiritual selves in our veteran readjustment and in our military service, even if the institution is trying to keep that away from us. And then I'll just go into the next one and just, just close up in regards to the poetry. But this was in On Being with Krista Tippett, like that's like a on public radio. She has a show with the Dalai Lama and Martin Sheehan and everything, and so it was great that this poem was featured on her show. Monk at War. Alone, one last day, a boy in full flight carries a brown bag. Iraqi kid runs at me in my tempting trigger finger. I pray the Psalms and let him go.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. There was a misconnection with the thing. Wow, I'm speechless because that touched something deep within me. It brought me back to like when we were in Iraq and I was on guard duty at the gates, and sometimes the kids would come up and you would try to scare them away because they're not supposed to come in, and yeah. I think that's why it took my words away.
Yeah.
That image just came back to me.
Wow.
So that was very touching.
Very.
And I dedicate the first one to a guy who was left alone, a top Marine sniper who was left alone by himself in COVID. Nobody, no VA, no veteran, VFW, Band of Brothers, no one came to him, and he was dying and he killed himself. Marco killed himself. And he was left alone. And we need to be more accountable when these type of periods of isolation occur.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we need to like just a deep breath. Right, like kind of reset it a little bit. But I think you're absolutely right. And part of the reason, I started Claymore Vets just because of that, because we say I got your six so robotically, right? Because it's a nice thing to say. But do we really? Right? Do we really have each other's back?
That's the truth.
So all right, Stacey, take us on with your amazing work.
So I'm just going to read one. And basically it's something I wrote for one of the poetic theater veteran sessions. And this was, let me actually look at that. Do I have a date on here? Yes. So this was presented June 30th, 2020. So we all know about what was going on there. So here we go. I think back to the days when I was a young girl swearing into the Army. Even then, I was a skeptic. America, land of the free, home of the brave. These are phrases that automatically came to mind when I said the Pledge of Allegiance at school and whenever I saw the American flag. But what had my country done for me? I was signing my life away with just a mustard seed of faith to fight for a country I wasn't sure had proven itself to me. I gave my pound of flesh. Years later, as a veteran with free dinners at Applebee's, battling thoughts and emotions that can leave me dead if I'm not careful, I taste the mustard seed crushed in my mouth. I'm angry. The color of my skin overshadows the ribbons on my chest. I can't breathe from my rage. I feel the flames melting rock into magma that pours from my eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Then the magma cools to rock, and I'm weighed down by every testimony, every video, every word about defamed and discarded Black faces. I was trained to find enemies in foreign lands, not enemies that live next door. The burden has its knee on my neck, bones breaking under questions about the what, the how, and the why. When I look to my allies, I'm drained by kindness, by questions of what humanity should be enough to answer, and by those who can't push back against that racist friend / family member / acquaintance because they don't want to deal with the fallout. It's exhausting to cry. And now secluded from an invisible killer, covering my face and keeping away when others would rather have a haircut than breathe free, I feel the weight on my chest every time I dare to browse the internet or, God forbid, see another black body crushed beneath a horde of cops scared for their lives. But there's always free pancakes off a special menu to thank me for my service. I live a compartmentalized life. I am a woman. I am Black. I'm a veteran. In one drawer, I am given a Facebook list of women you should know. Another drawer proclaims Veterans Day 10% off sale. And in a well-worn drawer, I read, we, insert company name here, support racial justice. We keep being thrown bones. I'm tired of checking broke skeletons searching for dried out marrow. America doesn't know how to face problems. It just knows how to placate. And the heavy-handed disparities roll on. Dylan Moore can be fed a cheeseburger after a long day of murder, while Elijah McClain's last breath was given apologies for inconveniencing his murders. Sandra Brown, Breonna Taylor, having to put their names in social media life hacks and recipes just to keep them from being forgotten. We are told to be grateful of a place we were kidnapped to, forced to accept trickles of freedom. And it's in the last century that we have begrudgingly been allowed to be seen as human, but not enough to not be reprimanded for saying Black Lives Matter. Why did I raise my hand? Whose country was I meant to serve? Will the bullet that comes from me say Specialist Stacey Bell or just living while Black?
Girl, I remember this one. I remember this one because I remember writing something about the rag dolls. I think that's the one. Yeah. I remember when you were like talking about the pepper, the crud, your rage tasting like
the mustard seed of faith.
Yeah, that was the line that always got me. I was like, oh my god. See this, but this is where I feel like words are so important, especially for artists. There's a very what is that word? Transformative power that words have, right? Because a lot of times, like when you have visual art, it leaves to the interpretation of whoever's watching it, right? But
right. But what yeah, and what you just said really touched me because I was contemplating on Stacey's stuff just there, and I was just saying this is what Dr. Baldacchino was talking about as far as that unlearning process. She wasn't taught to learn to write that.
Right.
That was coming from her own experience of learning, but not from some NYU veteran writers, seminar that was going to program you to write a certain way about war or the military. That I could see. I saw part of herself. I saw the window of other people, of humanity, of our culture, of our society, whatever the political views are. I was given that window. And there's something about art that can take us to that level, especially within this veteran genre, instead of just focusing on being these learned, vets, these domesticated vets to share about, readjustment in a certain type of way.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I agree. But what I was going at is that I think that is the magic key element of why words are so powerful, because there's no read between the lines. It's very expressive in what your message wants to be said, right? Because when you make a painting or whatever, it's a little bit, there's still a veil, right? And you leave it to the interpretation of the person that is looking at it.
Yeah.
When you use your words the way you guys do, it's very much in your face, and like, this is what I'm saying, like, this is what I need you to understand, this is my message to you, to the world, you know what I mean? And I think that's where words can be so transformative. And for me, it's taken me almost 2 years to have the courage to use my words, because I've written before, but I've never shared it. And then having, like, when you read your own words, like when you guys are doing right now, and you hear yourself, I don't know if it happens to you because you guys are more seasoned in this, but even when I was learning how to do the performance at the theater, the very first time I actually heard myself performing this, it just sat in my solar plexus. I was like, it's like, that's how I'm really feeling. Like, I think it's even a good thing for your own self to hear your own voice say the words that you're feeling, that sometimes we don't even allow ourselves to say it out loud. You guys are quiet. You just got super quiet. Like,
no, we're just digesting. Yeah, we gotta digest.
Yeah. And this is, and it's good that we sit with this. I think other podcasts, and I'm not hating, even though I am. Like,
you are. You always say that you're like, I'm not hating, but I am.
But the thing is, it's always like this rush, right? To get through it and to get, what happened to you and what, who hurt you and all this kind of stuff, to get some type of spectacle, of our military experience. And it's like, I did one interview and I was just like, whatever. I left it at that. Like, I just said, dead children. And then I just went on and I just continued. But it's like, don't, recognize I'm bearing things
Yeah.
of part of me with you. And let's have like a nice flow. And I guess I really appreciate the space for that flow.
I like to call it trauma porn.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Exactly.
that's, a lot of people are out there and they're just like, I don't want to know about, how you feel. And like, I don't want to know how you're dealing with it. I want to know how you're suffering with it.
Right. And with this particular interview, I know it wasn't done on purpose. And what was cool is that he followed me with that. But it's those people, and I'm saying those people, it's those people that don't want to listen, right? And they don't want to course correct, and they don't want to say. And this is the other thing about art that, again, I mentioned John because I think he really does have a lot to say with veterans, and that is in the art process, much like in our readjustment process, error is to be valued. When we make an error, it's okay. It's part of the process, whether it's writing, art, or in our readjustment. I know, I talk and people are like, you're a good father. I know I let my son down. Like that's part of my readjustment. That's part of the veteran narrative. You don't want to hear it. That's fine. But that's the reality. I'm trying to rebuild that relationship, but that's the reality. That was the cost of war. And that's why I'm so against any kind of war, and that's why I'm very fearful of, Ukraine, if we're going to end up in another stupid forever war. It's just like what you and I value. We value our lives.
Yeah, and I think, and for me, this is one of the reasons why I like creating these type of conversations and platforms, because I don't want to keep following that narrative of, woe is me, and let me compare traumas and people. And sometimes I almost feel like we are like the high ticket item, like show me how broken you are. And I feel
Trauma
like I
porn.
feel sorry for you and then placate
You got to
you
do a
and
play
make
on that.
you,
Trauma.
yeah, exactly. So then, like, and for me, it's like I strive to change that paradigm for all of us, because we've been trained to be like that. Like trauma happens to all of us, right? But in our core, we all have the potential for post-traumatic growth. And this is how we do it. We write, we create platforms, we do art, we do research, we give a voice to the voiceless, and
I think that also, and just, I'm sorry to cut in, but
no, go ahead.
I think that when you're talking about, these narratives, the narratives that they allow veterans are the ones that have gone through trauma but are okay now.
Right.
And, and look how they got over it. And it doesn't mean that they got over anything, but they know how to talk. They know how to present themselves on camera. That's
And they never want to interview a suicide survivor, a veteran suicide survivor. Recognize
not unless he's got a movie out or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's got to be something where he's like, look how he's healed. And so, and therefore kind of still pushing that American ideal of what the ideal soldier is. Soldier represents strength and perseverance, and you just got to do what you got to do, and
Yeah, I think there's I had done a talk with one of my friends. He's an army guy, and we were talking about how, like, when we are in combat, right, and we run out of ammo, like we don't have any pride, but there's no doubt. We call in for backup. We call in like, hey, I need air support, I need land support, I'm out of ammo, right?
Yeah.
But then when we're back here and we're out of ammo, why do we have such a shame to call up and say like, hey, I need backup, like I don't have it anymore,
Because it's mental and it's emotional.
Exactly.
It's not taking of a life,
Right.
basically. It's basically trying to save a life. And it's
Exactly.
the so-called soldier's life. And
our culture doesn't really promote that. The larger culture isn't. They don't even want to deal by and large with us. They just want to say thank you for your service, and that's it. That's their way.
Service,
yeah, and I'm not hating. I'm just saying that that's the reality, and maybe we can work towards improving that. But that's the reality.
But you have to be honest, and you have to look at yourself as well as everything else.
Yes.
How did I contribute to this?
Right.
And and how am I still contributing to this, even though I don't mean to contribute to this? What are my biases? You have to be honest with yourself, and that's really fucking hard.
Absolutely. and to add to that, Stacey, because I think that's one of the biggest points too. Like how do you change that how do you change the paradigm without being reactive and angry, right? Because it's easy to be like, oh, you see me like that, well, screw you too, and it takes so much more courage to come from a place of love and understanding, right? And being able to see someone that has different views than you, and be like, okay, we may not be agreeing, but I'm seeing your humanity, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're like,
there's a lot of things that we can do, like with common, ground, with a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people. And, as I said, I think as veterans, we are taught to, that pain is a sign of weakness there's a sign of weakness leaving the body.
Mm-hmm.
So even me, I'm like, it took me 10 something years, over 10 years, before I was like allowing myself to be like, okay, I'm going to do medication.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean that I'm weak. This means that I need help. And I need to be able to talk. I need to be able, because I said, I had very toxic traits. I'm still working through my own toxic traits. I catch myself. There's been things even the last 3 years that I haven't been proud of. But now I am more apt to not run from it like I was, or to push it down and be like, oh, this didn't happen. Or, well, you know what? The reason you're crying right now is because you can't handle it. The reason why you want to die right now is because you're weak and, you're letting everyone down. And also one of the things, and I've been thinking about, because I have post-traumatic stress disorder and a major depressive disorder. I've been hospitalized 4 times. Countless suicide attempts, suicidal ideology, ideology.
You got it.
Thank you. You got it. So, and realizing when I hear things like, you're being selfish if you try to kill yourself, and I said, and realizing, because we internalize it, we're like, you're right, I'm being so selfish. I'm hurting people. But you realize is that when someone is saying, hey, I think I'm really going to do this, or you think that someone's going to do this, the first thing that comes in our mind is that I'm hurting people. I'm hurting people. And how can I claim to love them if I keep hurting them? If I wasn't here, they wouldn't hurt. So it's not about selfishness. It's really about that point where you're like, I'm ready to make a sacrifice for the people that I love. And I think, that's hard. It's hard to not think of yourself as being selfish. You have to realize, so like, encountering other people and vets, we need
those, and we need those meanings, those meaning making domains and people in our lives to help us recognize that it isn't just that one way that is being placed upon us, that we have, that those things that you just shared with us and the stuff that I shared regarding, my son and his relationship. It's like, I own that. And, I'm finding meanings, and my doctoral advisor, John Broughton, writes a lot on the symbolism of war. I like to transfer that into the symbolism and meaning making that we make within our veteran readjustment that's often minimized. And so I really appreciate what you're saying, because I definitely got a window into that meaning making process.
Yeah, and I'm trying to process what you both said right now, and what Rocio said about kids, right? And I know that doesn't always apply to everybody, but I think, like, for me, oddly enough, or my kids were the reason why I finally swallowed that pride pill and admitted to myself that I needed help, like, because my Marine training, like, I just put my head down and I keep going, I keep going, and I keep going, right? It wasn't until I was in the ER, I had to drive myself to the ER because I was having an anxiety attack, but I thought I was having a heart attack. And the doctor's like, "You're fine." And I'm like, "No, I'm dying. Can't you tell?" And then it started happening more often. And that's when I was like, okay, listen, my body is shutting off on me because I'm not taking care of, my wounds. And then when I looked at my kids were so little, and like 6, I was like, that's when I realized, and it's kind of like a little bit of the opposite of how you describe being selfish. But like, that's what I said to myself. I'm like, you're being selfish because you can't swallow your pride pill to admit that you're broken, that you're drowning, right? Because like that to me is the hardest thing for me to do. For when I ask for help, I'm like at my lowest, and I will, like, I have this knot in my throat, and I don't know how to say I need help. Right?
I can know completely. For me, it is a thing of, when I say, like, talking about being selfish, it's like when you let that go, that selfish part, and then realize I need to embrace this. I have to sit with this.
Yeah.
I have to. So even now, I mean, I still have my moments. I still have to, like, wake up in the morning and count the reasons I should get out of the bed. And sometimes don't have those reasons. So I have to say things like, okay, I want to kill myself, but, comma. And if I still have a comma, I'm still fine. And if I even have a but, I still have
right.
I'm okay. But I have to be gentle with myself too. Because if someone was like coming to me with, well, me, I would be gentle with them, and I would empathize. And we have to understand that, sometimes your body just wants to be listened to. Sometimes your brain just wants to be listened to. Okay, I'm feeling this sort of way. I'm feeling this pain. Okay, either it's really happening or it's trying to alert me to something.
Right.
And sometimes I just have to sit with it. Sometimes there isn't I'm going to go and write haiku and walk next to a bubbling brook and, and pick, wildflowers. Sometimes it really is, okay, I'm just going to lay in bed and I'm just going to feel like shit.
Right.
And I'm going to let myself feel like shit. And 9 times, well, I'll say about 8 times out of 10, that's what it just wants. It's like, hey, acknowledge this, acknowledge your pain.
Yeah, I think, and Mike, you can chime in on this one, but because you've had deal with veterans and trauma. But I remember one of the therapy sessions, my therapist was like, because I'm very self-critical. Like, I am very, like, I criticize myself like all the time. And, I'm telling her all these things, and she's like, would you talk like that to your children? Would you talk like that to your friends? And I was like, no. She's like, then why are you doing it to yourself? Right? And then that was the first time that I was like, yeah, why do I talk to me like that? You know, like I would never say the things that I say to myself. I would never say that to my kids.
But you feel like they're important.
Right.
You feel like they're worthy.
Right. Yeah,
Totally different with yourself.
right,
You
but
know?
why not? Why not? Like why do
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And,
So
and,
that makes you sit and be like, okay, well, why do I feel worthless? What
Yeah.
what
and
am
it,
I seeing? You know?
well, it's this, from a clinical angle, and I'm not, so clinical theories are just that. It doesn't mean it's reality. It's just a way of understanding things. And so what I find within our community, and it's hard for a lot of civilians and even veterans to take, but we're like on this constant kind of like death drive, whether it's, whatever, self-destruction or suicide, or even I consider self critical
Sabotaging?
negativity is like, that's a way of you of me killing our souls, right? So we have no room, and that's taken from like Freud's work with veterans, ironically enough. And there's no room for like, and this is where art comes in, for that eros, for love, or the nirvana principle, where we're like giving to others, in a creative way, right? Because we're so stuck in this, like we're stuck in this kind of like ego ideal of like wanting to like not destroy our lives, but just to kind of like, we don't know that we're doing it, but we're just like in such a dark place that we're living everything in that darkness, that's
Yeah.
like leading us into that space, in that ideal space, instead of maybe finding these ego ideals that are more generative. And I think that's why we have art, we have community, we have service. I mean, doesn't it kill you at times? And I know I've done it, but like, I try not to do it as much, but just like going to these vet events, and it's like, I'm going to have 10 pigs on the blanket because I'm a vet and they owe it to me, whatever. I'm going to get the grab bag, and then I'm going to get another one for my kid, because he went through the shit, so like, that type of behavior, right? And I've seen, a lot worse in our community as well. We have to check ourselves, because what, those are destructive ways that we're kind of living out. And I'm wondering if there's other ways. And that's where like the art comes in, service comes in, even the service of talking to you all, that's service. It's not like you have to be like a Mother Teresa in our community, but just like reaching out, doing different things, that's service, I believe. And that helps us be more creative in how we design our ego ideals. As far as our ego, when I say ego, are that kind of self that we're kind of like aware of, right? And that can take us into, other places in the journey of life.
Yeah, and it just you saying that, thinking about the ego ideals, um, realizing you have to realize that, we're feeding into an ego ideal of what we're supposed to be, and that's supposed to be the good veteran.
Yes.
So the good veteran will go and get that 10% discount. That good veteran will get all that stuff for their family because they're proud of what they've done, and they're proud of America. But look at what they're giving us. I've had like several different veteran, websites that's supposed to give you all these advantages, and maybe you get 10% off of a cheeseburger, or you get like a $20 flight, but it's like 40 minutes away. You know what I mean? It's like, so we're supposed to be happy with the scraps that we get for the service that we did, and that's the American way. And you, at some point, you have to take that step back, and it's like, you know what? I gave a lot more than what you're giving back to me, and I have a right to want better for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's outside of the soldier, as being treated as a veteran, but also being treated as a human being.
Right. And that's the mentality that I think you perfectly said that when we engage veteran service organizations, whether it's the VFW or dealing with the VA hospital, or people who want to privatize the VA. Like right now, there's a big movement where they want to privatize and take away a lot of our benefits and our care. No, like just because whatever, you're a West Point graduate, whatever, lieutenant colonel who lost your leg, and you're trying to, convince me that, privatization is the way to go for our benefits and to close down the Manhattan and Brooklyn VA is the right answer because you're saying that. No, like I'm talking about what you were saying. I'm a human being, and my other brothers and sisters are human beings. And it's not like if our money can bail out these bankers and everything, why can't we get the care and the services that we need to have more lives?
Yeah. But I think that's why really having each other's backs makes a difference, because that's a bureaucratic battle uphill with a lot of red tape,
Right. But we can make a difference with that. That's they want to. The bottom line is this: a lot of these administrators, and I know because I was in the VA, and they transfer from the military and they think they hold their rank in the veteran healthcare system, and they don't. You're civilian. You know what I mean? You're like me. And the bottom line is this: I don't have to take your order. I'm a human being. I'm going to push for this for my betterment. That's the bottom line.
It's 10 o'clock. See, I told you guys.
It was good.
We could be talking forever and ever. And I hear my two devil dogs outside, like fighting, I think. They're lucky they don't have school tomorrow. So otherwise they'd be in bed already. But I won't keep you guys anymore. I know it's super late. Thank you both so much. I really, truly
Thank you. This has been great. I really love the conversation, the discourse.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, no, thank you both for sharing, for being so candid, so inspiring, and for letting us see your humanity. I think that's super important, and for serving, because I think you both do. I think we all still do in our own ways. Yeah, and like what I was saying is that a lot of the fight, the bureaucratic fight, it's needed, right? Because that's how we change. But in the meantime, while all of that is happening, because it takes too long, this is where we create change,
right,
with each other. And
right. And I believe, to add that as we do that, we also challenge systems, because it shouldn't be that I come back and I try to join an American Legion post 754 and they tell me to go join the Chinatown post. That I'm sorry, our community, and I told my community that, and they did nothing. And if it wasn't for another member of that post, Gene Wu, who started Vet Hack, and he was like, yeah, I was treated like crap for being an Asian American vet. We got to do something. So we contacted the board. We may even have, something on Vice News on it, but we're going to do like what you're saying, the community and everything, but we're also going to do different things because that's unacceptable.
Right. And not to even discuss about how the treatment of women vets
exactly
by
right
other veterans
Right.
You know, so
Right. And our artwork, our art and our writing helps
Yes.
us, I think, to bring it all around.
Bring
Just
it
to let
out
you know
and
that
bring it
I'm
out.
not about hate or anything like that. I'm about using tools. I know my writing has helped me to be a better advocate. So,
Yeah.
you know, I just appreciate this forum to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys keep on fighting a good fight and be creative, and you know, catch you in California.
I'm not gone yet. Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you need a scouting partner, sign me up. I'm going to California. So, you know, my friend Rocio, I don't know if she's still on, but you know, I'm coming to hang out with her in San Diego because that's where I want to go back anyways.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thanks for joining me. Have a great night, and I'll
You
see you
too,
guys around.
guys.
Yeah. Take care.
Thanks.
Great seeing you all. All right. Bye.
Bye.